Every house has one. That one drawer where every random cable you've ever owned somehow ends up. You open it looking for just one thing, and suddenly you're digging through a tangled mess of wires that all look familiar, but none of them feel useful. Some are thick, some are tiny, some have strange shapes that almost look important, but you have no idea what they belong to anymore. And somehow, no matter how many times you try to organize it, it always goes back to chaos. And the worst part, you hesitate to throw anything away. Because what if, one day, you actually need that weird cable from 2011? You know the one. That chunky charger from an old digital camera. Or that wide, flat cable from a printer you don't even own anymore. Or that one mysterious cord that looks expensive, so you keep it, just in case. And of course, there are always multiple phone chargers in there. Different shapes, slightly different sizes. None of them guaranteed to work when you actually need one. So when your battery is about to die and you ask someone, "Hey, do you have a charger?" It's never a simple yes or no. It's more like a gamble. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it fits, but charges so slowly it feels like it's doing you a favor. And for years that was just normal. Connecting devices wasn't simple, it wasn't smooth. It was confusing, frustrating, and somehow always slightly unreliable. But then something changed. Quietly, almost overnight, a small oval-shaped connector started appearing everywhere. At first, you barely noticed it. Then suddenly, it was on everything. Phones, laptops, tablets, headphones, game consoles, and eventually, even the iPhone gave in. USB-C. Now most people think the big deal is simple, you can plug it in either way. No more flipping the cable. No more guessing. No more that weird moment where it only works after the third try. But is that really the whole story? Or is there something much bigger hiding inside that tiny port? Because the truth is, USB-C isn't just a better plug, it's a complete reset of how devices connect. To understand why that matters, you have to go back. Back to a time when plugging something into your computer actually felt stressful. In the 90s, the back of a computer looked like a puzzle. A confusing one. There were ports everywhere, and every single one had a different purpose. Your keyboard had one type of connector. Your mouse had another. Printers used something completely different. Speakers, cameras, joysticks, all separate. And none of them were interchangeable. If you didn't have the exact right cable, you weren't figuring it out. You were done. That device simply wasn't getting used that day. And even when you did everything right, plugged it in perfectly, sometimes the computer just didn't respond. So what did you do? You restarted the whole system. Just to connect one thing. Think about that. Today, that sounds ridiculous. But back then, it was normal. Then came USB. Universal Serial Bus. And it felt like a breakthrough. Finally, one standard that could handle multiple devices. One plug, for many purposes. It promised something simple. Fewer cables, fewer headaches, less confusion. And for a while, it actually delivered. We got the classic rectangular USB plug, the one everyone recognizes. But even that had its own little annoyance. It only worked one way. And somehow, your hand always chose the wrong direction first. Every single time. Still, it was progress. But as technology evolved, devices started getting smaller, thinner, lighter, more portable. And that big rectangular plug? It started to feel out of place. So the industry tried to shrink it. First came mini USB, then micro USB. And this is where things started to fall apart again. Because instead of one clean transition, we ended up with multiple versions. Different shapes, slightly different designs. Not always compatible. Some devices kept using older ports, others switched to newer ones. So now, instead of one cable solving everything, you were back to carrying multiple. And micro USB? It kept the same old problem. There was still a right side up, except now it was smaller, tighter, and even harder to plug in correctly. You try once, no. Flip it, still no. Flip it again, suddenly it works, like it was never a problem. That tiny moment of frustration, repeated over and over again, every single day. By the early 2010s, the dream of a universal cable felt completely broken. We were right back where we started. Drawers full of cables. Confusion, trial and error, and that constant feeling of, why is this still so complicated? That's when the tech industry finally decided, enough is enough. Instead of patching the problem again, they went back to the beginning. And this time, the goal was different. Not just better, but truly universal. That's where USB-C comes in. At first glance, it doesn't look revolutionary. It's small, oval-shaped, clean, simple, but inside, it's doing something incredibly powerful. Older USB connectors were basic. They had just enough pins to handle simple tasks, charging and basic data transfer. USB-C, it has 24 pins. 24, packed into that tiny space. And those pins aren't just sitting there, they're working together, intelligently. Here's the magic part. USB-C is symmetrical. There is no top, no bottom, no right side. You can plug it in either way, and it works instantly. But what's actually happening behind the scenes is even more impressive. The moment you plug it in, the cable and the device communicate. In a split second, they figure out exactly what needs to happen. Are we charging? Are we transferring files? Are we connecting to a display? And then they adjust, automatically. No settings. No confusion, no effort from you. Just, it works. And that's something we've been missing for a long time. But USB-C didn't stop at convenience. It went further. Because it's not just a connector, it's a multi-tool. It can charge your device, transfer data at high speeds, send video to a monitor, carry audio signals, all at the same time through one cable. Think about how many different ports that replaces. Charging ports, HDMI ports, data ports, audio jack, all combined into one. That's not just improvement, that's transformation. And then comes the feature that really changes everything. Power delivery. Older USB charging was limited. It could handle small devices like phones or accessories. But laptops? They needed something bigger, stronger, separate. That's why laptop chargers used to be bulky, heavy, and completely different. USB-C changes that completely, because now charging is smart. When you plug in a USB-C cable, the charger doesn't just push power blindly. It asks, how much power do you need? And your device responds, here's what I can safely handle. They agree on a level, and then the power flows. It starts small and increases if everything supports it. That's why the same cable can charge tiny earbuds and a powerful laptop. And today, USB-C can deliver up to 240 watts. That's serious power. Enough to replace those big heavy laptop chargers we used to carry everywhere. Now imagine traveling. Instead of packing different chargers for your phone, laptop, tablet, headphones, you carry one. Just one cable, one charger, and it works for everything. That's the dream USB promised years ago, and USB-C finally delivers it. But there's one small catch. And it's important, because this is where people get confused. Not all USB-C cables are equal. They look the same, they fit the same, but they don't all do the same things. And that can lead to some frustrating moments. You grab a random USB-C cable, plug it into your laptop, and expect fast charging, but nothing happens. Or worse, your battery barely moves. Why? Because that cable might only support low power. Maybe it was designed for a phone. Maybe it can't handle high-speed charging. Maybe it doesn't support video at all, even though it looks exactly the same as a high-end cable. That's the hidden trap of USB-C. The connector is universal, but the performance depends on the cable. Some are basic, good for simple charging and slow data. Some are built for fast charging. Some support video output and high-speed data. And some do everything. So if you've ever thought, why isn't this working? It might not be your device. It might just be the cable you picked. But even with that confusion, we're still in a better place than we've ever been. Because for the first time, one connector truly works across almost everything. And that messy drawer, it finally has a chance of becoming less messy. Maybe not perfect, but better. Fewer cables, fewer guesses, fewer frustrating moments. And honestly, after years of dealing with cable chaos, that's a pretty big win. So next time you open that drawer, take a look. How many of those cables do you actually recognize? How many are still useful? And here's the real question. What's the one cable you refuse to throw away, even though you haven't used it in years? Because deep down, you still think I might need it someday. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.